Okay, so wiring up two servos can be a little tricky. And what we're going to do is walk you through how do you connect the two servos together so that they can be controlled by the same MCU. First is you're going to grab a servo. And you're going to need to cut this one, and we're going to be able to cut them and put them together. So yeah, I've got a servo here that I've already cut. Notice that it's been cut down to about 2 inches of its cable, and the remaining part is what we're going to use to be able to connect it to the MCU. And I've also already stripped it. And so when you cut your servo down, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to separate out the 3 wires, as it can be a little difficult to just strip the wires in together, but they're a lot easier to strip individually. So you can either just pry apart the wires, or you can use your clippers to just cut right in between where the 2 color wires come together. You just need to get them apart just enough so you can peel them away, and it doesn't take a lot. And so there we go. So notice I've got the yellow one peeled away, and then you can do the same thing. You can do this with scissors, you can do it with your screwdriver as needed. And so now I've got my 3 servos wires all separated. So now all I need to do is to be able to strip them, and you can put it in the little hole that says 20, because this is 20 gauge wire. And so you just put it in, just maybe centimeter or 2, and then you close your wire strippers, and then you just pull away, and you should be able to get your little wires exposed. And you will do that across all 3 of the wires. And now I have all my wires exposed, just like I do here. And now the tricky part is I want to be able to connect it to my other servo. So you're going to get a second servo, and you're going to do exactly the same thing. But this time you're going to clip the wire as close to the endpoint as you can, because you want the most length that you can get out of this servo cable. So just clip off the white connector piece on the very end. So once you do that, you're going to do exactly the same thing. You're going to clip the 3 wires. Now what you can do to connect them all together is you can get a terminal block, and we're going to install all the wires into a terminal block. And I found it easiest where you just take the same color wire across all of your servo pieces, and you should have 3 wires that you are going to clip together, and just twist all the dark browns together. And then you're going to twist all the oranges together, and you'll twist all the yellows together. And all this is doing is just making it a little bit easier for you to insert them into the terminal block. So as you twist away, you don't have to get it perfectly tight, and you don't even have to get it all that twisted together. You need to get it twisted just enough so that they'll hold as you put them into the terminal block. So there we go. So there I've got my yellow is the only one that remains. And I find it a little bit easiest to do 2 wires and then come back and add the 3rd wire in. Once I get 2 of them together, it just gives me 1 less wire to hold. Alright. And so now I've got them twisted all together. Okay. And sometimes if one comes loose, you might have to retighten it. It's important that you double check that everything is tightened. What I'm going to do with this one, I'm just going to give me a little extra wire that I can twist onto it. And sometimes when you strip them, they can be a little short. And just twist away. Make them nice and tight. Okay, so now I've got my wires all twisted together. Now all we have to do is insert them into our terminal block. So I'm just going to insert brown into the first side of my terminal block. And let me see here. And again, you want them kind of tight just so they'll go into your terminal block well. And then you just tighten them down on your terminal block. And then you insert the yellow one. And you can do this in any order. The most important thing is that you've got all of the exact same colors together, because those are the control lines for your servos. So this is how the different information is sent from the MCU to the servos to tell it how to do it. And so now I've got my servo set. Okay. And so you should have one terminal block connector on the end. Okay. And what this is going to do, this plugs into your MCU. This, I've already put a magnet on it, as you can have this attached to your greenhouse. This one that has the shorter cable, that's going to be your first servo, and this will be your second servo, and you might have to play with it a little bit on your greenhouse, as the other video on installing the servo shows you how to connect these guys up to the greenhouse. But that's it. That's how you connect two servos together if you don't have rooms on your MCU port to have a servo on each of your MCUs.